Hi there, once again. So we've waited a couple of minutes so everybody could join. I see that we have for today an amazing audience. So I'm really excited for this session. And I see a lot of familiar faces, which means that there are people here that were in the last session. So thank you very much for taking the time every week to meet us and to discuss hyperautomation and intelligent document processing. Before we start, I would like to invite you all to check our YouTube channel. So just search DocDigitizer at YouTube, and you will find the playback of the last two sessions, alongside with a lot more videos. But the full sessions are available in video. So if you were not able to join, you just can replay it and also share it with your colleagues. Also important to notice that our next session will be on March 10 at 3 p.m. wet time, and it will be about our API. So we will drill down on to use our API and alongside with a couple of demos. So register, it's free, and you'll be receiving also the playbacks and the follow-ups of that session. Today, I have alongside with me an amazing team, Claudia, that is recovering from a health issue, but still is here to help me answer your questions. So she will be in charge of collecting all your questions and making sure that all the questions are answered, either in the session or in the follow-up. And an amazing guest speaker, a partner of ours from InfoSistema, Bruno Costa. We have been working with the InfoSystem for quite some time. They are amazing partners, and they have a lot of complementary technologies. One of them is called BIZAPIs that Bruno will showcase today. So this is also something that we want to do on our open sessions, is to bring on board our partners so we can showcase solutions that we are doing together. Today, the main topic for this session is automation in financial services. In particular, how to automate know your customer processes. Uh, this is a concept that probably many of you don't know, and I will try to detail a little bit about the challenge so you can understand not only the challenge but the relationship between those challenges and uh, probably the challenge that you face on other kinds of processes that have similarities with QIC. So that is the main topic for today. Of course, we will discuss what is DocDigitizer, how it works, and how it fits the challenge in QIC. I will pass the stage to Bruno Costa that we will showcase also the BIZAPIs solution, and then as usual a Q&A so we can answer all your questions. And once again, don't forget to test. I always say this over and over again. Please send us invoices to extract@digitize.com and get back results. So this is a mailbox that we have open. It's unlimited, always available, any place in the world, any invoice, photo, PDF, just send it and see how we handle handle that invoice and return back to you 100% accurate data. Okay, so send an invoice to extract@digitize.com and see how we operate. Okay, so going to the main topic for today, know your customers. So although you might not know this name or this terminology, know your customer process is something that all of us, at least as customers, already did. Okay, so when you are subscribing any type of financial product, from a bank account to a loan, um, the banks are required to do a due diligence process over you as a client. And this is essentially to gather evidence about your identity, your income, your address, your taxes. And this is the reason why they ask you to submit a lot of different information about yourself. Okay, so the confirmation and the verification of all this information is what is called a know your customer process. This is required because they will not able to approve the subscription of a product. They will not be able to approve your bank account or even to provide you a loan without making this due diligence process. Okay, and a roughly estimate of the time and money spent on this accounts for, as you see here, I would say more than $10 billion that are spent yearly on supporting these processes. Okay. On top of this, this is essentially the process that induces lags on the process. That is the reason why you ask for a loan and you spend 2-3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks to get the loan approved. Okay, so the time it takes is essentially the time the bank needs to perform the KYC process. So it's a very inefficient process with a lot of uh, characteristics that makes the process very complex, and one of the reasons is compliance, but also related to the fact that in most cases when people submit a request for a loan, for example, most of the applications, and we are talking about more than 68% of the applications, are not complete. They don't have the required information so the bank can do the KYC process, which leads to a lot of manual verifications, manual contacts with the customer. And this probably is increasing in complexity because banks are now opening new ways of communicating with the customer, which means that the amount of unstructured information that they receive is also increasing. Okay, so long story short, what this means in practice is that there are huge opportunities to implement automation over these processes, not only because they are critical process for the banks, but because of the amount of money banks can save and the amount of value they can create by shortening their approval time. Okay, so when we think about the KYC process, it's very important to understand that for the bank to do a due diligence process over you as a customer, they are required to analyze trusted data. Okay, and trusted data is simply data about the customer that is trustable enough for the bank to make decisions upon that data. Okay, this is very hard to get. Okay, because most of the banks get trusted data because they have an analyst looking at data and making it trustable. Nevertheless, banks and the bank ecosystem is also evolving a lot during the recent years. So there are there are a lot of we will be talking about this on the BIZAPI showcase. There are a lot of public APIs that provide trusted data, okay, that connects directly to your fiscal authority or to other banks, and that enable banks to get trusted data in a structured format, which means that this is allowing banks to make decisions much faster because they are able to get trusted data and input them into a decision algorithm. But never forget this, trusted data is a term that I will use throughout this presentation, okay? So the problem behind trusted data is related to the fact that most of these APIs are not enough to complete the full KYC process, or the customer, due to a set of reasons, don't adopt the usage of those kinds of APIs. Okay, and still 80% of the information that is exchanged between the customers and the banks is still unstructured information in the forms of documents. Okay, and this number is estimated to grow and double in size every 2 years over the next decade. Okay, so this means in practice that a lot of the information that is required by the bank is received by the bank in an unstructured format. Okay, so unstructured data is something that cannot be automatically processed by a software. which means that you cannot simply put a robot making decisions, because the robot will not understand what is the income over on a payslip, or what is the address over an address proof. Okay, so I'm talking about documents that can range from very structured documents to semi-structured documents to legal contracts and unstructured documents. But in the future, we will be talking about emails, audios, and videos. Okay, as you can imagine, there are banks already open communication channels through WhatsApp. Okay, so the amount of unstructured data that is required for the business, it's huge. It is and is really increasing. Okay, so what is DocDigitizer? DocDigitizer is a company that focus on creating hyper automation tools to help companies to parse through this very large amount of unstructured inputs and provide them structure, augmented, and standardized information, so they can automate these complex processes without all the complexities around setting up or data validation, because we provide a trusted trusted source of data, which means that the data that DocDigitizer provides to the bank, it's in similar quality to the information that you get over open banking API. Okay, so I would not say that we are an alternative to an API. I would say that we are alongside a different way of doing things that are complementary, as you'll see on the BIZAPI showcase. Okay, so when it comes to data capture, what we provide is data capture API that enables you to process any types of document, any type of variation, even photos that are taken by the customer without being worried about quality, without any setup on one end. But on the other end, we provide only 100% accurate data. Okay, which means that the data that we streamline to the banks may be used directly to make decisions to approve a loan, for example. On top of capturing data from documents, we offer also two additional layers that are very relevant when it comes to KYC processes. We provide a layer of fraud analysis, okay, which means that alongside with the document data, we also flag a set of controls in terms of fraud detection, which is very important, because no risk department of a bank will allow you to automate a process and without having this layer of fraud. On top of that, we also offer standardization over the information, which means that you might be getting two addresses from two different documents that are, for a human, they are the same, but they are not exactly the same in terms of strings. So therefore, you cannot compare them. So we offer on top of the data and on top of the fraud, also a layer that allow us to streamline, standardize information that is able to be compared, to transform the information. And this is what we call our semantic platform. So these three main flavors is what really is our set of tools when it comes to unstructured data. Long story short, if you look at several reports from Gartner and Forrester, you most certainly find DocDigitizer there. But more than those reports, I would invite you to have a look at G2 Crowd and Capterra and some of the testimonials that we have there of our customers. So 5 stars in 5, which is amazing, and it's growing. So feel free to go there and check by yourself the project that we do. In terms of KYC, and we are moving away from COVID, but all of us remember what it was in the beginning and the problems in terms of economic relief programs to the economy. Just to give you an hint, through DocDigitizer, we were able to approve more than 4 billion euros in relief funding under 3 months. In close partnership with the Portuguese authorities. So this was a huge project and very complex. but it was very rewarding because it allows us to help our economy to on this struggling period. Comparing to an OCR, and I think most of you already saw this slide. What I would like to highlight here is that we are trying to remove all the complexities of implementing intelligent document processing. So instead of installing, collect a data set up your models or develop your layouts, then develop validation rules, and then having people validating data, we want to make this much simpler. So you just connect to an API, we inbound documents, and you integrate verified and trusted data. And this is our main differentiation point, is the simplicity and to remove all the hurdles of implementing IDP and making it simple. Okay. Just to give you a very nice example on how this can work in a KYC process in the bank, I would like to show you a very simple solution to recover missing information. So as I mentioned, 70% of the loan requests are not complete, and we are helping banks to reduce the amount of time needed to recover those processes. So what you are seeing here is basically a gateway that enable you to send SMS to your customers. They will receive an SMS. They will just scan through their smartphones their documentation, ID cards, passports, payslips, address proofs, invoices, bank statements, and once those documents are scanned, what happens in practice is that we perform data capture, fraud validation, data standardization, and let me speed up here. And what the bank will receive is not the data, the raw data, is already a set of checklists that are done, cross-checking different documents, cross-checking different data, using the fraud analysis, and making a much more streamlined process, an easy process, because they will receive the analyst checklist already fulfilled with trusted data. Okay, so what we are talking about here is basically to remove all the hurdles of recovering missing information, but at the same time providing the bank all these checklists already done and analyzed, and making possible to develop workflows over this checklist. Okay, so this is just an example among many others that we have on projects that we do with financial service companies. Okay, and I will now leave the stage to Bruno, so we can have also time for questions. So Bruno, do you care to join us? Let's see if Bruno is his first time with live story. Hi Bruno, how are you?
Are you seeing me? Everything okay?
Yes, it is. It is. So I will leave you the stage, and then we can talk again with the questions. Okay.
Okay, perfect then. I'm gonna share here my screen. I prepared a quick presentation. Let me see. Share screen. I'm gonna share here my screen. Oh, connect. Sharing. And I'm going to open this up. So, following up on what João was talking about relating to KYC, in terms of information sources and what BIZAPIs does to help in these types of processes is that there are actually lots of other information sources around in public portals. And this can be government, finance, in partners, insurance, central banks, that have information that many times in this KYC process or KYB, know your business instead of know your customer, when it's for example like a credit or a digital onboarding for a corporation, and you many times the companies are basically asking the clients for information that they can get online, things like with a company's ID, you can get the official name, the address of that company. But people, or sometimes the corporates, what they put is they put in front of the client a form for him to fill up these types of information when they are actually available online for you to get that information. Now, different processes inside the company may need different sources of information. So we were talking about digital onboarding, where you can get the client's name, his monthly salary, his address, his employee status, and perhaps you can get all this information if you ask the client for some different information, like, for example, access to his home banking or permission to access some open banking site. Or you can get his IRS or his information from directly from IRS with his permission. If you are talking about businesses, many information is available online for free in public sites, in commercial records and financial records. You can get things like the powers of signature, who is going to sign for that company when we are making a contract with it. Same thing for insurance and so forth. So different processes inside the organization end up existing many times different sources that you can reduce the number of information you are asking your clients if you go into these sources and get that information. And there are other things. For example, very common in onboarding in terms of credit is the part of risk analysis, where for small credits like consumer credits, uh, there may be some evaluation where the consumer bank says, I'm going to just, I mean, if it's a small enough credit, like a microcredit, there are a lot of checks I'm not going to do. I'm just do some sampling. I am going to put in place some rules because there's a cost associated with all the risk analysis if it's not fully automated. And so it's not worth it to apply it to every credit, every situation. Well, when you automate getting the information, doing those validations, then you can apply it to the whole environment, to the whole volume of credit you are giving, instead of just sampling and doing it in different situations. For consumer credit, one of the main aspects relating to digital onboarding in this specific scenario, but also not only for banks but other institutions, is the UX, the interface. Everybody knows that nowadays uh, everybody's trying to get things faster with less effort, so with a better user experience, a better UX, and asking the client to to give us more information because you have to have it for compliance, for your risk analysis, for the definition of what kind of offer you can give the client, how much credit can you give it, in which time, and so forth. And if you are able to reduce the amount of information you ask your client because you get that information from other official sources, that's all for the best. Now, with BIZAPIs, we can get that information in a structured way into your systems. But besides that, we can also do transactions. So sometimes for compliance, for example, issues, you have to, or a bank has to send some information to a central bank, for example. And with BIZAPIs, they can automate that commitment, that sending of information, or for a certain partner portal, for example, for support of some sale or some problem that is happening. And BIZAPIs can help in those submissions, in those transaction operations also. In a regular company, when you are automating, so the best option is to do it through APIs. What are APIs? Application program interfaces. Basically, they are having they consist on having one machine talking to another machine. So both solutions have to be, let's say, API enabled to be able to connect so machines can talk to each other. But this is, let's say, a foolproof process in terms of automation, because those interfaces of the APIs are defined, they are fixed, and from them you are able to do very easy maintenance and get the information or commit the information in a very structured way. The other alternative is to use RPA. RPA means robotic process automation. for robotic process automation, what you are doing is basically replacing a human that is doing a manual work, for example, in your back office, in those KYC processes, that somebody in the back office has to access those portals, go into some source of information, validate information from that extra source, and you replace that human with basically a software robot that will mimic the exact same process that the human was doing. The thing is, when you are replacing a human by a robot, you have to be very specific on what the robot has to do. Because RPA technology, unlike DocDigitizer with its AI and machine learning, is still very limited in what options the robot can do. So it must follow specific paths. And this is a problem in terms of maintenance daily, because you have to, something changes, for example, in that external portal that you are getting the information. Even if for a human it's just, okay, this information is not on the left, it's now on the right, or vice versa. For a robot, he's expecting something to be in that position. So the best way to automate is basically, this is the conclusion that I'm getting at, and that's why we are developing and having our BIZAPI solution, is to call an API. So you don't have to have these worries with a standard RPA. Obviously, it's best to have an automation, even if it's an RPA, than the API. But the best solution is always to have machines talking to machines. It's faster, and you have less support and less problems. Now, with BIZAPIs, we are going one step further in terms of blockchain. BIZAPIs is part of the API3 Foundation. For those who understand about blockchain, there's an issue when you are talking about smart contracts that you have to have reliable information for that. And so there are a whole architecture in terms of oracles where information can be obtained and so forth. And BIZAPIs is part of API3 Foundation, so you can basically use our BIZAPIs APIs in your blockchain processes. Well, InfoSistema has projects and clients all over the world. Not much to say about this. And to finish up here my presentation, my idea here and what I wanted to transmit is that when you want to improve the CX, the customer experience, when you want to be able to apply automation to things that you are doing in your background, in your back office, with 2, 3, 4 people that have to access external portals, copy that information into your systems, validate information between what you have and what a client's partner is showing. All those external interfaces, you can basically replace them with our BizAPI calls. So in your automation process in your company, you can say, okay, I'm automating my internal processes. And whenever I have situations where I have to do some external access to get information or to commit information to another company, I can use BIZAPIs to do that commit, to either get or put the information outside of your company through a direct API, enabling your whole process to be automated.
Bruno, thank you very much for this presentation. We have a couple of minutes for questions. Not sure if Claudia, are you there? Claudia was having some troubles with the microphone. Not sure. Okay, so I would say that we can start right away with the questions. So Arthur is asking us if we have APIs, why do we need documents? Okay, so I think this relates a lot with your last slide. So I will comment, and then Bruno, please compliment me. I would say that you need to follow the API path as much as possible, okay? But there are cases where, for some reason or another, let's say, for example, that you are asking a loan through a partner. so the partner is not able to get your data and streamline the access to your data to the bank, probably the easiest way is to use documents. So I would say that as banks are opening different ways to communicate with their customers, they are also opening different customer journeys. Some of them supported in API, some of them supported in documents, some in an hybrid format where you collect identity from your ID card and then ask for a payslip. So I would say that there are multiple paths, and they are not essentially they are not alternatives. They are more complementary approach. Bruno, any comment?
Yeah, we actually so have worked together exactly in that situation, and it's exactly that. So do notice that, for example, in some situations you don't have APIs. You would like to, and you'd like to say, "Oh, I'm going to connect to somebody," even in governments, that they may have the information you need, but they will not make it available. And so you will need to ask the client for documents. You need to ask the client to take a picture and send me that picture of a document you have in front of you. Other situations, the information may be available, but the client may not want to give you permission, like PSD2 here in Europe. He may say, okay, or access to his IRS, for example. So he may be comfortable in taking a picture of that document and sharing that, but he may not be comfortable with sharing his full IRS information. In particular, when we are talking about private clients, so consumers, this may be a bigger concern. For corporates, less so. But yeah, they are complementary situations, and depending on the customer experience you want to show your clients, you will also need one or the other, or sometimes even both, and give the client the options.
Awesome. Claudia.
Well, hello. How
Okay,
are
hi
you?
there, hi there.
Hi.
Welcome.
Sorry, guys. Now I'm back. And I have already a second great question from John. Okay. We are using Google Vision on KYC automation. What do you say are the most relevant differences?
Okay. So first of all, Google Vision is perhaps the most outstanding OCR tool in the market. Okay, we use Google Vision internally. The main differences is that Google Vision targets in providing you OCR. So basically, you submit a document and you get a pair of field value. Okay, you don't have any layer in terms of data validation, so you are not able to know which fields are correct, which fields are not correct, which means that you cannot streamline that into a decision algorithm. Imagine that Google Vision says that you earn 10,000 euros per month, and your payslip says 1,000. Okay, so it's impossible to streamline that data. So that is one of the difference. We streamline 100% accurate data, contractually assured. The second biggest difference is that we have a lot of different layers on top of data. So I mentioned fraud, I mentioned data standardization. So all of those layers are not available in Google Vision. So I would say that you can use very easily Google Vision, for example, to speed up the customer journey, to fill up a form. It would be very difficult to use Google Vision to make the final decision of the KYC process. Okay, so I would say that those are the main differences.
Perfect, John. Thanks. Two questions from Bruna. First one, in how much time can I have the QIC data approved? And I'm going
Okay.
to back to the second one.
Okay, so that strongly depends on the way you build the customer journey. So we have been working with a lot of banks, me and Bruno, and all of them, although they have our solutions plugged in, they have different lead times. Okay, so I can share that the shortest one is like 5 minutes. So personal loan that you can get the approval and the money transfer while you are still on the shop. Okay, because personal loans are typically an impulse buying. Okay, but that strongly depends on the type of loan, on the type of bank itself. Bruno, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it basically depends on, well, assuming you are automating the full process, how is your full process? Because a mortgage loan, for example, will mostly require a lot more specifics than a consumer loan. And we've done things with both. And in mortgage loans, perhaps you'll need some information on the house and things like that, which actually BIZAPIs can get you automatically. And but it will go through internally a lot more processes and a lot more validations, and than a simple consumer loan. Yeah.
And it's also connected with the risk and the amount of the credit, let's say. So I would say that in a purely technology point of view, the processing time could be minutes or 5 minutes or less. But then there is all the compliance framework and the process of the bank.
Okay, guys, perfect. Thank you so much for your answers. The second one from Bruna is, how do I know that my data customer from my customers is safe with DocDigitizer?
Okay, so that is a very nice question. We don't store data. We don't store customer data, which means that we are a near stateless service, which means that all the data that we get, all the documents that we get, and all the information that relates with those documents are fully erased after we streamline the data back to the bank. And on top of that, of course, we have a lot of layers in terms of privacy and security, both contractually, technical, and in terms of the organizational structure. It's a very complex, but in a nutshell, we don't persist data, and all of that is taken care by our security team, and we work with very strict compliance frameworks with banks and insurance companies.
Okay, perfect. So we are almost ending. I have two more questions. One from Adrian. Is the fraud analysis included in the standard price?
It is part of our standard offer. Yes.
Okay. And last one from Sasha. What type of KYC documents are you able to recover through DocDigitizer?
Okay, that is a very tricky question, but I would say all. Okay, we have been working in very different KYC processes and QIB processes. Bruno mentioned the worst ones are the B2B stuff that has a lot of information about the company itself. So we are talking about more than 100 document types. It's until now, every type of document that the banks ask us, we are able to provide them, and also connect this with BIZAPIs, because most of the times, even for a risk point of view, our customers ask documents and cross-check documents with other sources of data provided by BIZAPIs. So what they are doing essentially is to use different sources of data and cross-check between those sources of data to reduce the risk of fraud. Yeah. So sometimes we receive documents that are overlapped with information that Bruno is providing through BIZAPIs, but they are doing that to reduce the risk of fraud. So that is the reason why we receive a lot of documents and different document types.
Okay, guys. So, team, I think we are finished with the Q&A. It was great questions and great answers. Thank you so much. On my side, it's all.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for
Yeah.
for the questions, and thank you very much, Bruno, for this participation as a guest speaker. All of you, I would love to have you on the next session, where we will talk about our API and discuss a little bit more about the API. So you will receive shortly a follow-up over this session with a video playback, alongside with the invitation to join us in our next open session. So I would like to wish you a lovely weekend and take care. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you,
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.